The movie opens with a woman named Rose, who is heading to work one morning when she encounters one problem after another along the way. She ends up arriving late at her workplace, which is a fashion company, which makes her boss, Gunter, furious. Rose explains how she almost got into a serious accident earlier, but her boss doesn't seem to care, and continues humiliating her, while the other employees begin laughing at her misery. Later, while Rose is eating lunch alone, she is approached by the agency's photographer, Brad, who tells her about an event taking place that evening, and suggests they go to the after party together. Rose is stunned by the invitation, and refuses at first, but when Brad directly asks her to be his date, she eventually agrees. Not long afterward, Rose is approached by a model, Chelsea, who also invites her to the after party that night. However, Rose explains that Brad has already asked her to go with him, which excites Chelsea, so she offers to help Rose look amazing for her date. In the evening, Rose arrives at the party looking glamorous, and meets up with Brad. They begin opening up to each other, and Brad tells her that his true passion is actually photojournalism, while Rose admits that she dreams of making it big in the fashion world. After a brief conversation, Brad suddenly kisses her, catching Rose completely off guard. Realizing her surprise, he quickly apologizes and heads off to get some drinks for them. Meanwhile, Rose heads to the bathroom, and while she is inside one of the stalls, she overhears two girls talking about her. They discuss how Chelsea had actually asked Brad to take Rose out, which they find pathetic. It is also revealed that Chelsea's family had fostered Rose after she got in a tragic accident that claimed her parents' lives. The girls mock her, and say that Brad will probably sleep with Rose out of pity, and they laugh at the thought. Upon hearing this, Rose is obviously heartbroken, so she heads to the dance floor and confronts Chelsea about it. Chelsea insists that she only did it because Rose really liked Brad, and because he seemed interested as well, but Rose claims she doesn't need anyone's charity, and storms out. But then this happens. Some time later, Rose wakes up in a hospital room with bandages covering her face, with Chelsea sitting beside her. Moments later, a doctor enters the room, and explains that the medical team did everything possible to treat her severe facial injuries. He also reveals that her scooter's handlebars perforated her abdomen during the crash, ripping out a large portion of her intestine. Unable to speak because her mouth is heavily bandaged, Rose writes on a piece of cardboard, and asks to see her face. And so, the bandages are carefully removed, and when she looks into a mirror, she is horrified to discover that her mouth has been horribly disfigured. Rose breaks down in tears at the devastating sight, so Chelsea tries to comfort her, reminding her that she is still alive. After Rose is discharged from the hospital, Chelsea takes her to her place, where she has arranged many things for Rose's convenience, and informs her where everything is located. She then leaves for some work, after which Rose removes her bandages, while looking in the mirror, and she cries at her disfigured face. She then blends a few fruits, and tries to drink through a giant syringe, but she spills most of it, and eventually throws up. Later, Rose checks her email, and finds a video sent from an institution called Burroughs Clinic. The video talks about a process called transhumanism, which is a theory that the human race can evolve beyond its current physical and mental limitations by means of science and technology. They are providing highly experimental stem cell manipulation, which is not available to the general public, along with lifetime medical insurance, and this offer entices Rose. Without wasting any time, Rose and Chelsea visit the Burroughs Clinic the next day, where they meet Dr. Burroughs himself. He examines Rose, and tells her that she must undergo a stem cell procedure that will repair her face. Rose says she cannot afford it, but he explains that all the costs are free, because they also need test subjects to improve their procedures, making it mutually beneficial. Rose worries about safety, but he reassures her that she is not their first patient, as they have done this on many people before, and it has been successful. After the doctor leaves, Rose admits to Chelsea that she is scared, but the latter encourages her to accept the offer. She points out that they cannot afford the reconstructive surgery, and Rose must try it, as she has nothing to lose. In the next scene, they prepare for the surgery, and we see Dr. Burrows along with his team, all of whom are dressed in blood-colored robes, as if they are performing some ritual. As the procedure begins, the doctor applies a gelatinous and translucent substance to the affected area of Rose's face. Later, while Rose is unconscious, Brad comes to visit her with flowers, but soon leaves without waking her up, right when he is intercepted by Dr. Burrow, who invites him for a confidential conversation. Meanwhile, Rose wakes up very anxious, and stands in front of a mirror, before removing her bandages. She is excited to see her wounds have completely healed, and not only that, she now looks more beautiful than ever. But just then, her stomach grumbles terribly with hunger, so she leaves the room and goes to the pool. She then runs into a man who looks familiar, so he introduces himself as Dominic, a famous TV actor. Moments later, Rose suddenly begins kissing him aggressively, which he also reciprocates, but Rose is shocked to realize that she has bitten him and made him bleed. Dominic is angry at her, while Rose runs away in shock and embarrassment. The next day, she tells Dr. Burrows about the incident from the previous night, which she assumes was a dream. However, the doctor dismisses it as just a side effect of her surgery, and gives her some medication to help with her condition. He says it has some side effects such as nausea, dizziness, and even vivid hallucinations. He also gives her a protein shake designed for her dietary requirements, which she can take if she is unable to eat other food. Shortly after, Chelsea arrives to pick up Rose, and she is stunned to see her new appearance. Rose says she doesn't even need her glasses anymore. As they return home, Chelsea encourages Rose to work on her new designs, to which the latter agrees. She sits down to design, while recalling how Gunter used to humiliate her, but a knock on the door interrupts her. It turns out to be Brad, and when Rose opens the door, he is mesmerized by how beautiful she looks. He apologizes for what happened, and asks her out on a date again, but she refuses, and asks him to leave. In the evening, Rose arrives at a club to party with Chelsea, during which she comes across her former boss, Gunter. He compliments her dress, to which Rose reveals that it is one of her own designs, which impresses him. He invites her to work again, and says they are launching a new collection line in 2 months, to which Rose agrees without hesitation. Later, at the club, Rose spends time drinking and dancing, during which she gets along with a man, and takes him outside. The two begin making out, but things take a dark turn when Rose suddenly tears off his skin and bites his neck, and the scene suddenly cuts to Rose waking up in her bed as if nothing had happened. She assumes what she experienced was just a dream, and takes a sip from the protein bottle the doctor had given her. Elsewhere, we see the TV actor Dominic, who is currently on a shoot, but acting erratically and behaving aggressively. He struggles to contain himself, and all hell breaks loose when this happens.
Mom's a big fan of yours.
He attacks, and rips another actor's face off with his teeth. Meanwhile, Rose is at her home when her stomach begins grumbling loudly, so she looks for something to eat. But soon, extreme pain in her abdomen overwhelms her, and she passes out on the floor. After some time, she wakes up feeling better, and drinks the protein shake. But her cravings don't stop, and she takes a raw steak from the fridge, although she used to be a vegetarian before. But then, instead of cooking it, she licks the steak, and disturbingly drinks the blood. Sometime later, a troublemaker guy is kicked out of a club, after which he begins catcalling girls on the street, which is noticed by Rose. Later, she approaches him and asks for a ride, to which he readily agrees and lets her into his car. And then, surprisingly, Rose bites him in the neck and drinks his blood. In the next scene, Rose wakes up in her bed with blood on her mouth and the previous evening's coat is also hanging beside her bed. The scene then shifts to a hospital, where a nurse hears strange noises and rushes to help a patient. He turns out to be the same man Dominic had bitten earlier, who has just undergone reconstructive surgery. Suddenly, the man attacks the nurse, brutally biting her as if he were some kind of zombie. A male staff member arrives to intervene, but the patient ends up biting him as well. Elsewhere, Rose arrives to see Dr. Burroughs, and tells him about her cravings for meat and blood, but he dismisses it, saying it is just a side effect of the anesthesia. She also tells him about the severe hallucinations she is experiencing, but he assures her it is just a dream and not real. Later, at work, Gunter reviews some of Rose's designs, and he is so impressed that he decides to include them in his upcoming collection, which excites Rose. Meanwhile, at the hospital, an official from the Centers for Disease Control aka CDC, arrives and speaks with a doctor about the alarming situation. The doctor reveals a condition caused by a hyperactive mutant strain of rabies, and explains that they have not yet been able to identify the origin of the infection. However, the first reported case of this is Dominic Danvers, who is restrained in a hospital bed, with foam at his mouth as he continues to act aggressively. Elsewhere, Rose is approached by Brad again, who invites her to dinner, and she agrees this time. At the restaurant, she tells him how she is hungry all the time, but the only thing she can keep down is the protein shake the clinic gave her. She also talks about her nightmares that feel realistic, after which he says he wants to tell her something important. Brad then touches her face with his hand, during which she shockingly bites her tongue. And so, Rose heads to the restroom, where she is horrified to notice new sharp teeth inside her mouth. Next, a panicked Rose decides to leave, but suddenly a deranged man smashes through the glass window and attacks her. He begins biting other people, until Brad pulls him away and repeatedly strikes him with a fire extinguisher until he stops moving, while Rose has already left. Back in the hospital, the doctor and the CDC member are studying the nurse who was bitten earlier, and she is now also manifesting similar symptoms to those of rabies. The CDC member says that with a mutant strain that can incubate in less than 48 hours, they could be looking at an epidemic the world has ever seen. He suggests they should quarantine all the infected people, and not make a public announcement yet, as it could cause mass panic. Just then, a man wearing a Santa Claus costume arrives, and since he is clearly infected, the police shoot him dead. In another part of the city, Rose screams desperately as she sees her distorted reflection in a mirror. An old man approaches her and offers help, but she avoids him and enters a dark street. The man tries to help her, during which Rose transforms into a bizarre creature before seemingly attacking him. Next, Rose wakes up in her bed again, confused, after which she leaves the doctor a voicemail about her situation. She then drinks the protein shake, but the bottle suddenly falls and spills some liquid on the ground, revealing that it is actually blood. Later, at work, the team is preparing for the upcoming fashion show when Brad approaches Rose, and asks what happened on their last date. She clarifies that her meds are messing with her, and all she recalls is leaving the restaurant. She says she doesn't even know how she got home, so Brad clarifies that he took her, which shocks Rose. Later, Gunter chooses one of the dresses Rose designed for the closing of his upcoming fashion show. He decides to use Chelsea as a model, and both girls are now very happy, as this has been their lifelong dream. Meanwhile, the virus continues spreading out of control across the city, and numerous patients are admitted to the hospital. So the CDC also issues a public warning about the rabies outbreak, advising people to stay away from aggressive people and animals. Days later, the most awaited fashion show finally arrives, and Gunter is determined to proceed despite the growing viral outbreak. The event is about to start soon, but Chelsea does not show up, which begins to worry Rose. She then gets a call from Dr. Burrow, who says her test results from the last visit have come in, and invites her urgently to the clinic, but Rose says she will be there tomorrow. Moments later, a shaken Chelsea finally arrives, and tells the models that a woman attacked her in the subway, and bit her, before she was shot dead by the police. At the same time, Rose arrives outside, when she suddenly begins to suffer from terrible stomach cramps. Two men approach her and, instead of helping, they record a video to mock her. And then, a bizarre tentacle emerges from Rose's body and attacks one of the men. Another man keeps recording, so Brad arrives and proceeds to brutally beat him, after which he deletes the video. The tentacle on Rose's body continues moving, so Brad gives Rose an injection, and takes her inside, just as the attacked man starts getting up. Later, Rose wakes up in the dressing room, and Brad informs her that she passed out in the alley, so he brought her inside. He wants to take her to the clinic immediately, but she refuses, saying she needs to see her dress close the show tonight. Not long after, the show begins, and Rose sits next to Gunter, while music plays, and models walk the runway with grace. Suddenly, one of the male models falls from the stage, but he recovers, and the show continues as if nothing happened. Then, moments later, Chelsea attacks a model, and then walks around with blood on her mouth. A furious Gunter asks what the hell she is doing, so Chelsea throws herself at Gunter, and bites his neck. In the midst of the panic, the man who was attacked by Rose earlier has become infected and arrives to cause more chaos. The police show up at that precise moment, and shoot Chelsea along with the rest of the infected people. A devastated Rose approaches her friend, but Brad says they need to leave. Later, they arrive at the clinic, where Rose cannot stop calming herself, and blames herself for the virus and also Chelsea's death. She has also realized that her hallucinations are not just dreams, and that she indeed killed those men. However, Dr. Burrows calms her down and leads Brad and Rose to a room, where they will supposedly find all the answers they have been searching for. Upon entering, the doctor suddenly locks them inside, and speaks to them through reinforced glass. Burrows reveals a shocking twist, saying that Brad was aware of all of this. He had asked Brad to keep an eye on Rose, to which he agreed, as he also wanted an interesting story as a journalist. Upon hearing this, Rose becomes extremely upset, and accuses Brad of treating her like a science experiment, while he claims he just only wanted to protect her. The doctor then presses a button that pours a large amount of blood onto Brad. This awakens an insatiable craving in Rose, so Dr. Burrows encourages her to embrace and kill the predator within her. Upon hearing this, Brad tries to escape, but he comes across a horrific creature, a woman-like figure trapped in a mutated state. Dr. Burrows reveals that this is his wife, who died of cancer, and had donated her body to his research, so now she is a breakthrough in his research, which aims to achieve immortality. Meanwhile, Rose can't contain herself anymore, so she attacks Brad with her tentacles, and takes his life. The excited doctor urges her to feed on him, but Rose refuses, and instead repeatedly stabs the hideous creature until it dies, which devastates Dr. Burrows. In the end, she slits her own throat and ends her life, while the doctor screams in disappointment. Sometime later, we hear on the radio that the epidemic was eliminated thanks to military force, and they basically had to euthanize all the infected, because there was no cure. The authorities did not find a clear cause, and classified the case as a simple flu. Meanwhile, Dr. Burrows prepares a new solution of blood protein, and a raw meat dish, before he takes it to Rose. She is shocked to find herself still alive, with her wounds healed, which leaves her frustrated. It turns out the doctor has revived her through the same cell manipulation treatment, and has made her immortal. The movie then ends as a furious Rose hits the glass of her cell, while Dr. Burroughs observes her with a sinister smile on his face.